The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York City baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link at the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The hosts of the show are Marty Rose and Robert Deininger. Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Ralph. Good. All is well here. We had Gene for a minute, and now we don't. So Gene Hutmaker is going to join us tonight. We are in the process of getting into the Hot Stove League. That's to come down after the baseball season ends. For most of us, it ends when our favorite team doesn't advance to the World Series or doesn't make the playoff. But in this case, we have a World Series going on that is absolutely unbelievable. I'll start with you, Marty. Impressions of the World Series.
Well, very entertaining, to say the least. But I cannot believe the amount of home runs we're seeing. And I think I can attribute it to a couple of things. Number one, the bullpens have been burnt out. It's unbelievable. From Game 2, when Roberts pulled Hill after 4 innings, that was it. That was it. That started like a landslide of poor relief pitching that's continued for just about every game. And we spoke earlier in the season about all the home runs and different reasons for it, but I'm really thinking that it's more the ball than anything else. That it's wound tighter and the seams are lower, so the pitcher cannot get a good grip on the breaking ball, and the balls travel further because there's less air friction from the seams. All that stuff. All that stuff.
I've never heard that. That is something, Marty. I have less air friction from the seams because they don't stand up as much. I also hear it's slicker. The ball itself.
So the pitchers can't get a great grip on it.
Right.
And it hurts the breaking ball a lot.
Yasiel Puig looked like a fly ball, and it just kept carrying and carrying and carrying.
Yeah, with one hand.
One hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
There's a hot dog. I mean, with a lot of mustard.
Yeah, but he's toned it down a lot, though.
Yeah. I know.
Toned it down an awful lot. I think he got a few words in his direction when he, the first year he was around. So looks like
he got
starting to
down
in
for
some
a little
way.
bit, as a matter of fact. But what talent the guy had.
No question. Yeah.
Incredible. Boy, the Dodgers sure come up with guys to fill in quickly. Do you know that Adrian Gonzalez doesn't even get talk anymore? Is he on the DL, not eligible for the playoffs? What's
I don't even
the
know if
story
he's on
with
the
him?
roster. I know he was hurt, which is why Bellinger got a chance to begin with.
Right.
But, it's the old Lou Gehrig situation,
Yeah,
you can't take him out.
Right.
Came in to fill in for a guy, and you never heard from the other guy again, So.
Right. But to come up, Bellinger, a 20-year-old kid, unknown guy, Dodgers put it together. So what with Seager and they just Forsythe looks good. They're a good ball club.
Even the guy that filled in for Seager when he was hurt played well.
Right.
Culper or whatever.
Culberson.
Yeah, Culberson. Yeah. He played.
Culberson. Hey, I hate to date our age, Mert. When I was doing the Topps gig that I had, signing minor league players on behalf of Topps to their contracts, to obligate them when they were still young and in the minors, obligate them to Topps baseball cards. I signed Charlie Culbertson's dad when he was a young minor leaguer. I'm starting to sound like Casey Stengel in terms. When they fired Casey Stengel because he was too old, he was 70 frickin' years old.
Never make that mistake of being 70 again. That's it.
Right. And we thought, well, he is an old guy. Maybe he did lose it a little.
Yeah, you won't have to worry about that, Ralph. In about another 6 days, you won't have to worry about that.
They don't get rid of me. I'm 72.
I will never have made that mistake again. The anniversary of my bar mitzvah. Let's put it that way. Robert, how old are you? I have no idea.
I'm 41.
41. Wow, you look much younger in your pictures.
Yeah.
That's a lot to be said for living good, huh?
Yeah, so stay out of the sun as much as I can.
And the Father and the Holy Ghost as well. If you can possibly avoid all three on the same Sunday, you're in. Why am I rambling like this? Where is Gene? Gene, are you
I am
still?
here. I am here.
I'm
hoping they don't get rid of me because I'm 72 and I do athletic security at our high school.
Whoa. Now, there's no mandatory retirement for you?
No, I just, I don't think too many really know my name unless they read my book. My book is in the schools.
No, but what I'm saying is that that's changed. I remember when early on, as we were going through life, there were certain laws that precluded, weren't enforced yet, precluding mandatory retirement, people being forced out of jobs that they could do just because they reached a certain age.
Company by company, Ralph. I didn't have a mandatory retirement either. I could have still been working if I wanted to. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that is good to give the worker the option.
Yeah.
Provided he or she can.
As long as you're still productive, and they want you.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Bud Selig was 80.
Pardon me?
Bud Selig was 80 when he retired.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Well, he made the Hall of Fame, and he was the guy that got the World Series canceled. He was the guy that put in that idea to make the exhibition All-Star game count for something.
Well, he got 15 of the 16 votes.
For the Hall?
Yeah, I don't know the one person who didn't vote for him. They probably excommunicated him.
Well, I know it's a entirely different system. Voting for the old timers, voting for the commissioner, but that Gil Hodges, the likes of Gil Hodges, so Dick Allen, they're not in. That's ridiculous.
They have become more elite. Before they had the good old boys club where it was just the players, and they would get, like Frankie Frisch got about 8 or 9 of his Cardinal and Giant teammates in. But now it's more, they have 4 media guys and 4 execs on the board, and I think there's 8 players. So you get like Marvin Miller, all the players will vote for Marvin Miller, but I don't think any of the execs would. So he really can't get in.
Right, which is absolutely nuts, because if anybody deserves Hall of Fame recognition, it's Marvin Miller. I mean, any executive.
Changed the game more than anybody.
Absolutely. freed players, did what Curt Flood, had his career died for his rights to not have to be chattel and go. And you say, well, he's making this amount, that amount of money.
That was the word. That was the public view. $90,000 he was making then, which was like really big back in 1969. $90,000.
Right.
But most of the public was
changed in 1974 when Marvin Miller got that through. Now the salaries are unbelievably outrageous.
Well, I had lunch with Peter Seitz, who did the Catfish Hunter case. When Finley messed up his contract, and he made Catfish Hunter the free agent. Peter Seitz was the arbitrator, and at a postal
Finley
service,
the way he messed up was he didn't make an annuity payment,
right?
Either on purpose or he just thought, well, I'll just try to mess with him. Maybe he wanted it. Do you know more about that? Did Finley do it almost consciously?
Seitz told me it was. I had lunch with him. I was for the Postal Service arbitration hearing, and we had lunch and we talked about the case. And he goes, "What can I do? Finley screwed up. I had no choice but to." I go, "Yeah, I didn't mind Catfish being free, but I sure didn't want him going to the Yankees."
Well, you really are a Yankee hater, Gene.
Absolutely, and my sons love him, and so does my granddaughter.
I admire your conviction. How about that?
It was inbred in me back in.
That you can be objective.
No, yes, I'm objective.
And that. So before I ask you about your views on the World Series, do an overall thumbnail of this year's Yankee team, how they did in your eyes, and what the future looks like.
Well, I'm not. I get tired of hearing how he exceeded all expectations when they get a guy who did not expect his 52 home runs.
Yeah.
And then Sanchez comes along and he's the real deal, he's like a Johnny Bench type. Well, he's not good at that defensively, but hitting wise, he's probably better than Johnny Bench hitting. And these two guys carried him, and then you have Severino coming along, and on the New York radio, all you're hearing is how the Yankees exceeded expectations. Of course they did, but you get a guy hitting 52 homers, and you get Sanchez, and they're on a Hall of Fame path. Not that they can keep it up, but Sanchez does. But who knows if they're going to find a hole in Judge's bat? And but they really played well, and Girardi's gone, and because they want automation type managers now. They don't want anybody doing you push the thing. What you should do, just do what it says. Don't think about the human factor.
Yeah.
That's something to think about. Who do you guys think is going to be the next Yankee manager?
So many names
Rob Thompson
out there.
is a candidate. I know a lot of the players love him.
Right. Not the Robbie Thompson that played with the Giants.
No.
Rob Thompson, who's been a coach in their organization for many, many years.
And 28 years.
And they don't want to pay money like they do now, because they said if Girardi went to the Nationals, then the Nationals would not want to pay him $5 million. That's why they signed Martinez.
Okay. We were asking about that off the air. Robert and I were talking about that. Who did sign with the Nationals?
I think it was Martinez from the Chicago Cub bench
coach. Yeah, we both heard it earlier in the day and forgot who it was. And if I'm not mistaken, Gabe Kapler, was it, that signed with Philadelphia Phillies?
Yep.
So
they have a lot of young talent.
Most managerial jobs, I can't think of any that are open other than the Yankees.
No, that was it. They're the last one.
They were talking about Mattingly, but Mattingly, he would have had it last time when they gave it to Girardi. so they're not going to go after him. That would appease a lot of their fans. But
yeah, but he's also had a ton of experience since then. He's been managing for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's something to think about.
Well, he has the karma of never being able to win either. So that kind of, it's sort of like a Dusty Baker. Not necessarily something you do, but you have some kind of crazy thing happening, like a Bartman or a Spezio hitting the home run or whatever, and the rally monkey. There's always something happening, and it just can't seem to win the big one. So you kind of stay away from it.
He definitely has got to take some responsibility for that. He changed the attitude on the Angels bench when he took a ball from a pitcher and just flipped it to him as he was going off the field instead of giving it to the relief pitcher, saying basically, we're out of here, we're done, you get the game ball.
Right. That was Ortiz.
And people on the Angel bench took note, let's put it that way.
And then they had that crazy rally monkey on the screen going crazy.
Right. Absolutely. I had a lot of mixed emotions about that game, all these years being a Giant apologist, really liking the Angels in the American League back in those days. And, it was just one of those World Series where you're torn, much like the one that I'm watching now. I don't know who I dislike more. Houston, everything about the city of Houston, the state of Texas. They had the two Bushes get out there and parade around and wheel around before the first pitch was thrown, and I'm not particularly fond of either of those two people. Yet it was difficult to root for the Dodgers, but easy enough. I took the loss, my first rooting experience for the Dodgers last night. I'm 0-1 lifetime.
Kershaw just can't seem to get it done in the postseason.
I know. So overpowering.
That's one of the main things compared him to Koufax.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I didn't see. Koufax had that overpowering, top to bottom, 12-6 curveball that would just paralyze you. I only saw that kind of stuff on one or two pitches he threw last night. But again, we were talking earlier, Gene. You might have been on and not heard, or on or often not heard. We're talking about the slickness of the ball, the seams of the ball.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That could have a lot to do with.
Verlander was saying that.
Yeah.
And Tyko.
Right. Everybody. What do you say? Also, the same thing you guys were saying about burning out the bullpen with the Dodgers, with Roberts. Same thing could be said about Houston's bullpen being burnt out by Hinch, who seems to be this calm, intellectual guy from Stanford. He had a ball.
He's trying to use his starters, his starters that aren't really starting the games, his lower level starters, and those guys have been better than the actual bullpen. The guys that have been in the bullpen all year round, they've had a terrible postseason. But
Liriano hasn't been in at all.
No, guys like Peacock, he had one or two really good games, and then you can't pitch every day. It's just he comes in. Yes, they hit him because you just can't do it every single day. It's not, and that they're being called on to do it every day, and it's just not possible.
Yeah, and Peacock
especially if they're trying to throw 98 miles an hour. If that's in vogue, you're just harder to come back the next day from something like that. Absolutely.
And Peacock pitched 3 innings the game before.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, they say Verlander's going to go for, providing he's somewhat consistent, he's going to go up maximum to like 200 pitches like Marichal and Spahn in that 16-inning game back in 1962 or 3, whatever it was.
Sure.
They wrote a book about that game.
That's a book.
So, tell me about your book, Gene. How do you market it?
Well, basically, I just talk about it, and some of my classmates, they wind up buying and stuff like that. I would like to do a sequel, but then I'd probably have to get a divorce.
Oh.
My wife does not allow me to talk about the book in her presence, but not that it stops me, but she gets tired of hearing about it. She hates sports. Even though her son's a co-author.
There are rules to be broken, Gene. Always rules to be broken. If it weren't this, it'd be something much more important. I'm sure she's understanding, but it's not all that difficult, is it? You have
50 years.
She helped you type it up, for crying out loud.
I know. 50 years.
Wow.
That's because our son was a co-author.
Well, okay.
That was a smart move on my part in order to get her to type it, because she will not do anything to offend her sons.
Okay. Well, mama's boys.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that. Anything else you guys want to talk about that's of interest to you?
Would you like to hear the title for this year? It would be,
yes.
It would be Just-in-Time Verlander. Because they got him with 2 seconds to go.
Okay.
That's true.
Not bad.
That would be the title.
Very clever writing.
And L.A. did not take him. I understand he really wanted to go to the Dodgers. They were talking about that earlier, that the Dodgers didn't want him, whether it be the money or whatever. But he could have been on the Dodgers. And with 2 seconds to go.
That must be something that he's thinking about for tomorrow night.
That's what they said. He's gonna beat the team that didn't want him.
Right. He's been lights out since he's joined the Astros. Damn near unhittable.
Robert, any news about any of these guys signing, being extended, or Sabathia, whatever?
Nothing that I've heard of yet.
Okay.
But if they do bring Sabathia back, it would have to be, I think, on a 1-year deal.
Okay.
And he'll go away for somebody for 2 years?
What's that?
Well, he would go. He's from the Oakland area too, isn't he? Like, suppose the Giants offered him 2 years, he would take that over the Yankees 1 year. I
think so, especially if it's for more money.
But that was the thought he was signing. The Giants were like the Giants looked like a prime pick for him back in the day in 2009 because he's from that area.
I know he's been saying he'd like to finish his career with the Yankees, but I don't know how realistic that really is.
Yeah, talk is talk in order to get more leverage for more money.
Anything new on the Mets, Marty?
No, nothing, Ralph. I think there's pretty much an embargo until after the World Series. You know.
Okay.
Everybody's supposed to be focusing on the World Series, and nobody really does anything until that's over with. So I'm sure that they just start getting some coach signings and stuff like that announced probably right after the series ends.
Will Dominic Smith be their first baseman?
Probably.
I don't think they have anybody else in the pipeline. I'm sure they're not going to trade for a guy when he's just kind of starting out. He didn't look that terrible when he was up. He was up for about a month and a half, I guess, at the end of the season. So
yeah, he did very well. Right on schedule, picking up a little power along the way.
And anybody know about David Wright? What's going on with him? He had surgery again.
Oh, really?
We haven't expected, Marty and I have been doing this 2.5 years now. We haven't expected David Wright to come back. I don't think there was any want to. Well, what if he comes back? We'll put Flores somewhere else, or this, that, and the other thing, or Reyes will go to second. No, if he comes back, he's got to go to Lord's and just have a long wet down and blessing. He ain't coming back. That's just my guess.
I'd like to see him get a Molina-type catcher.
They're not going to do that either.
Because
I know.
I mean, for somebody who can
cheap
throw people out.
They're going to cheap out, and they're going to go with the two guys that they finished last season with. I bet a lot on that. They're not going to make a move there. Maybe they go for a third baseman. Maybe, I don't know who. I mean, they're not going to go for
They're talking about Frazier.
Yeah, I mean, Frazier could probably be had 3-year contract for nothing too outrageous, but they
he's a very steady guy. I would like him.
Yeah,
a lot.
You don't know about Conforto, whether he's going to be healthy or not. You don't know if they're going to, try to get guys back that left. Like what's his name?
Like Bruce, for instance.
Like Bruce, yeah.
But Marty, how hurt is Conforto? I heard it was just bone spurs.
No. He threw his whole shoulder out, and I heard that he did the same thing a couple of times before, once in college and once earlier, when he was a kid. It's not the first time, but I think this time was pretty serious. I mean, I remember them talking when this first happened that, he could miss 6 months, he could miss a whole year. I don't think it's that bad, but they've been very silent about it. You haven't heard a thing. So
he elected not to have surgery. Was that the idea?
No, he had surgery. He had to have surgery.
Oh, he had surgery. Okay, so rehab.
Yeah, but, Mets doctors, though, so who knows?
The problem now with the players are when they give up baseball, they're giving up like a $2-3 million job. Back in the 50s, if they had to give up their career, they could go get a post office job and almost make the same amount of money.
Yeah, except it isn't $2 million; it's like $10 million.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
That's why they want to be playing. Before they could get another job and make almost as much money. Now they can't.
Yeah, no question about that.
You know that website, Ralph, on Facebook, I mean, the Baseball as a Religion, you know that?
Yes.
No, that's I'm talking about. The guy that runs that, he put something out the other day that said, some of these $25 and $30 million ball players are not earning their salary. I said, wait a second.
Some of them, huh?
How many of these guys are out there? And if they are, nobody's earning it, frankly. I mean, holy Christmas. Has a point, though. It kind of knocked my socks off when I looked at that. We're talking about $2 million.
I might have mentioned this before, or you guys might have told me. If a player is called up one day, Major League service, one game, one inning, one pinch run, not even he's pinch hit 4. He's in the box score. One game. He gets to be in the health insurance plan that he has to contribute to, of course, but he's pensioned off in that for the rest of his life. Health insurance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
To say nothing of the $585,000 minimum salary that's going on right now. It's a different world. Here's where the real problem is going to be. People are going to start putting 2 and 2 together. You make the major leagues, you make $500,000, you get this, that, and the other thing. How about the minor league player who spends 4 years in the minors, maybe gets hurt, whatever, maybe he's just not good enough, but he gets nothing pension-wise?
Pretty much true.
Absolutely. That is a big inequity. A guy could spend 10 years in the minors trying to get up. to the big leagues. So
another thing is the baseball assistance team, the BAT. I mean, I don't even know why they. I mean, I used to go to the dinners in New York in January as a holiday gift for my sons and hobnob with all the ex-players. But like with all the money that Major League Baseball makes, that they can't have like 0.1% to go to support these people that are like in their 70s or 80s who played in the 1970s or 60s.
Well, let's bring up my cause, which is a cause of Doug Gladstone. I don't know if you know Marty. Doug Gladstone wrote the book, and not just Marty. I'm asking Marty specifically. He's from Jackson Heights. That's what we're both. Marty and I are both from Jackson Heights. Doug Gladstone wrote the book, The Bitter Cup of Coffee. And the Major League, these are guys who are up for a short period of time and don't benefit because before 1980, a player had to have 4 years of service to get any sort of pension time. Well,
you have George Theodore talking about that too?
Theodore was one of those guys, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Carmen Fanzone, another one who's been on these airwaves. Aaron Pointer, who was a former NFL ref and spent a long cup of coffee with the original Houston Colt 45s and was with them when they became the Astros. And Aaron Pointer, brother of the Pointer sisters, I did an interview with him a while back, a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and he's one of those players. When it came time to retire Jackie Robinson's number, 42, and recognize all the players that suffered from never having the opportunity to make the major leagues or play in the major leagues because obviously the color of their skin, the pension, the MLBPA, the Players Association, they don't call it a union, they call it an association. But believe me, it's a union in every way. And what they did magnanimously and rightfully, they took money out of their pension program, which is incredibly generous, well-funded, let's put it that way, and they took a small amount, a generous amount, small generous amount, let's put it that way. They didn't go overboard. But they gave it to Negro, and I use the term for those out there, Negro leagues. That's what they called them in those days.
Right.
And because of black baseball, African American baseball, no, it's Negro leagues, and those are the players that were, in essence, given small pensions for their service in the Negro League by MLBPA. Well, come to find out, there, as Doug Gladstone has pointed out and continues to lead the way for this, there are 500-plus players, some of whom, like Stork Theodore and Carmen Fanzone and those guys who have made a difference in Major League history. They were up at certain times. They pitched certain games. They're totally shut out of the pension program. And they've appealed time and time again to Steve Rogers, the biggest culprit, who stops this from happening. Another person who stops it from happening is, I can't think of his name. His brother's name is Mike, and he played in the big leagues a little bit, and he was an infielder with the Angels. Anyway, he does it spiting his brother who didn't get the pension. Point being, there are 500-plus players that could use assistance. Bats is, Gene, you mentioned them. they're a wonderful it's a wonderful idea, but they are so underfunded, it's amazing. So when you think of the money that the MLBPA makes just in caps, their percentage of the money that they make in uniforms sold, T-shirts, sweatshirts with the name with baseball on it, they get a piece of that action. So they are now the strongest, most well-funded union in the United States of America. And they won't help these 500 players. Many of them broke and indigent. I'm going to give you the name of one guy, and I'll throw it out as a trivia question. Who was traded for Gil Hodges from the Washington Senators so the Mets can get Hodges as a manager? You guys remember his name?
Wow.
Marty?
Not Hank Allen, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No, I don't remember, Ralph. No.
It was Bill Dennehy.
Okay, he's on a baseball card with Tom Seaver's rookie card.
All right.
Claim to fame.
Claim to fame. He is now, he's now gone blind. He doesn't have insurance. He's, effects of some horrible disease. It might be diabetes, one thing or the other. He's one of those 500 players. Now, you say, these guys, well, they may not have played a lot, but just that, you say, well, that's Bill Dennehy. He was on Tom Seaver's card. He's a piece of it all in our minds. You know what I mean? These guys should be taken care of. It's an absolute travesty. The money is there. It wouldn't come out of any player's fortune of a pension. These guys are at age 40 now. These guys, and I'm not going to throw any figures out there because every time I read one, I go, that's too much. That's incredible. It seems like an exaggeration when I read it. So if I say a figure, it's going to seem like, well, that's just craziness. It is. And those players need to be taken care of. So we're doing what we can as a station, the different shows. Mark Littell has a show on this station. One of your heroes, am I correct? Gene? No.
Mark Littell?
No. Mark Littell gave up the home run to Chris Chambliss.
Yeah, well, when he received the copy of my book, he called me up for a half hour from Arizona talking about it.
To talk about it?
Talk about my book.
Oh, Mark, please, everybody out there, listen, Mark and Mark, it's Mark Weiss and Mark Littell, one with a C, one with a K, and country and city, let's put it that way. Mark is such a city kid from with Brooklyn roots and what have you, and Country Littell, his nickname, is so country that you can almost smell the hayseed through the radio. And but they're great together. And Mark Littell came out recently and said it's a travesty, and this guy's well pensioned off. He said it is a travesty that these guys aren't being taken care of. Hal Bach, who has a show on this network. I'm not a name dropper or anything, right? Hal Bach spent 43 years with the AP as the head baseball writer, agrees that this is a travesty. Peter Golenbach had Doug Gladstone on the air recently and agrees that it is simply unfair. There are rights, there are wrongs, and that's simply wrong. So I appreciate it, guys, that you offered me my ramble about this, but it's real important. I can't think for the life of me of any Yankees who are mentioned among these 500. Oh, yes, I can. And I did speak with him on recently, a guy named Larry Growell. Sorry, Larry, you were on a few weeks ago, and already, I forget, gave me a great interview. He was a Yankee pitcher. He was the last pitcher to bat before the DH became in effect. And he was Blomberg's roommate with the Yankees. This is back in '72. He was up for a cup of coffee, and doesn't get the pension, and we talk about that. His life goes on. Some of these guys, like Aaron Pointer, he doesn't need the pension. That's not the idea. It's a question of some guys do, and fairness for everybody. So there was a Yankee I mentioned who falls under that category, and I'm going to mention also another guy as I ramble. He's a former Cardinal. His name is Dan Taussig, and you will remember him, Gene Hutmaker, being a Cardinal fan.
Dan Taussig?
He was a regular center fielder. One thing he was a Giant, an original San Francisco Giant, later became a Houston Astro, and then center fielder. When Flood was struggling a little bit early on, he was given the job as the regular center fielder for the Cardinals. Didn't hold it for very long. He told me he was given that job by Keane. Can't think of Keane's first name.
Johnny Keane?
Who later managed the Yankees, and he remembers that conversation, and it's pretty cool. He says, "You're my regular center fielder," and what have you. But yet, he was up enough to have all those memories, all those effect on the game, in the box scores, having teammates. No pension. Not fair. Okay.
Wow. That's sad.
Anyway, I've talked enough. Anything you guys want to finish on? I don't want to leave anybody out. Robert, you haven't talked much.
Derek Jeter pushed a few more front office people out this past week, including Andre Dawson, Jeff Conine, and Jack McKinnon. He asked them all to take a 75% pay cut, and instead they resigned.
And Tony Perez, I think, was another one.
Really?
Yeah, of that. I didn't read about Conine. See, Conine was
Mr. Marlin.
Man. Wow.
He wants to clean house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish Wayne Unger were here to address that. Wayne Unger has always had an avid Yankee fan too. Another one whoever he roots for or against, he's objective. And Wayne has always had kind of a bad taste in his mouth over Jeter all these years. There's something about him that he always came away looking pristine, and something about him he didn't like, not the least of which that he didn't like. He didn't go to the funeral. The great voice of the Yankees, right? Foul-butting number 2.
Shepard.
Shepard. He didn't go to. He wanted his. He uses his recording, Shepard's recording of his introduction, used it for years after Shepard was gone, but he and no other Yankee went to Shepard's funeral.
Wow.
No other Yankee player. I might have had some front office guys there. That just happens to be a fact. So, but let me give you a remind you all of a Met embarrassing moment, because no team is immune. The Mets, when they buried Gil Hodges at the funeral, because they had all the press was there, and they didn't want to have to do another press conference, they announced that Yogi Berra was taken over as the manager at Gil Hodges' funeral when he died suddenly in the spring of 1974 or 1971, I think it was. Might have even been the year after they won, 70. Okay, guys, enough babble for me tonight.
Okay. Before you write Kershaw off, you may get a Game 7 if the Dodgers can do something with Verlander.
Right. I'd like to see a Game 7.
I'd like to see one too. I would too, but I'm a great believer in momentum meaning a lot. So we will see. You got to give Houston a lot of credit. That defensive third baseman, Bregman, he's got the most soft hands I've seen in a long time, and he's terrific. Springer made a mistake or two in the outfield, but he comes.
That was horrible. You can't let that happen.
No, nobody behind him. What happened to going down on a knee? Have you seen that? I can remember Mantle going down on a knee in center field to take a ground ball.
Right.
Haven't seen that.
They don't do that anymore. Yeah. Never see it.
In 15 years, that a lot of things you don't see anymore in the game. But that was an exciting game last night. It's been an exciting series. You got to say that. First one that really excited me that I didn't have a rooting interest in. Really the first one in my life that I could look at and say, holy Toledo, this is...
It's also good here on the East Coast. If you don't have to get up for work the next day, it's a really good thing.
That's very true.
I got 4 hours sleep yesterday.
Could imagine.
Okay.
So, Ralph, one thing to add. We got two Mets on the Scottsdale Scorpions that have made the All-Star team. Thomas Nido, the catcher, their number 9 prospect, and their number 11 prospect, Luis Guillorme, who is a shortstop second baseman, and their number 11 prospect. So those two guys.
Nice.
They only got 8 guys. We only got 8 guys on the team, But those.
Yeah, the Yankees got 8 guys too.
Yeah.
They share I think there's like 6 different major league teams share each Arizona League team. They all send like 6 to 8 guys or something like that. So.
Right.
That's
as I say, it's a very, very tough league. Best prospects. And Nido, that's very good news because if Pilecki and D'Arnaud, and I finally learned how to pronounce his name, by the way, it's 2.5 years. If those guys can keep it together until Nido develops, maybe by mid-season, maybe by September, this guy can come up and be the long-term catcher that they need. Who is the guy you guys mentioned signing 2 years ago? They could have signed the Milwaukee Brewer catcher. LaCroix. How's his career turned out?
He's going south quickly. He's out there again. He's available at the end of this year, but his batting, his offense has been decreasing as the years have gone on.
He's available.
He's not what he was 3 years ago. Yeah, he's not what he was 3 years ago.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to get much. if he gets anybody.
Well, if this is his walk year, you can expect him to be, just by nature of the beast nowadays, you could expect him to jump up and have a great year.
The Yankees have a pitcher, Albert Abreu, who they got in Texas Rangers deal with Brian McCann. He's in the Arizona Fall League. He's got a 0-0 record, but a 1.20 ERA, and in 15 innings he's got 15 strikeouts, and one scout says he's the best pitcher that he's seen in the Arizona Fall League this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's on the same team with the Mets. The Yankees and the Mets are 2 out of the 6 teams that have the Scottsdale Scorpions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me respond to something Gene commented on Facebook. I said something about that David Nemec, who wrote some great old trivia books, some great old history books, baseball, has a show on the network. He's been on hiatus, and he and Al Blumkin are back doing this show again. And I put a picture up of the book that he wrote, and Gene says, "Oh, that's the history when my Cardinals were great back in the day."
They were 19 out of 20 coming down the stretch.
Right. Cardinals have been great I'm going to give them some real kudos. I can't think of a franchise who has had as few weak teams over the years. They have been contenders in virtually every era that we've grown up following. So, we know about the Guest House Gang years. You know about in the 50s they were particularly tough with Musial.
Oh, yeah, but only in 57 were they decent. Well, all the other years in the 50s they were like, because they were the most southern team, they didn't want to get any really black players, you know.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't get Banks or Frank Robinson.
How did that change, Gene? When because all of a sudden they were loaded with black players: Kurt Flood, Bob Gibson, Lou Brock. How did that change?
Well, Hemus was and I had dinner with Hemus a couple of times at the bat dinners, but Hemus was a part of the culture of the times, and he wasn't really. Gibson hated him, and Flood didn't like him, and when Johnny Keane took over, and I wasn't a Johnny Keane fan at all, but Keane told Flood, "You're my center fielder." He told Gibson, "You're my pitcher." So Keane had a good feel with the black players, and Ken Boyer was real instrumental in with the black players, and especially with Musial there too, because Musial played basketball with Griffey's grandfather, Junior's grandfather. So the Cardinals, being a real southern town, all things considered, being in St. Louis, they started getting them in Toothpick Jones they had, and they traded him for Bill White. So probably in 58, 59 when they got Flood and Gibson. Really
Toothpick won 20 games with the Giants the year they traded him.
Yeah, he got the equivalent of the Cy Young Award because he was the National League Pitcher of the Year when Early Wynn got the Cy Young. But Sad Sam was the National League Pitcher of the Year.
Oh, very interesting. Only lasted a year or two and died tragically. Very, very young guy when he died. Hey, guys, terrific. Nice show.
Hey.
Robert, anything you want to add? Anything else?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, Mert?
Yeah, that's it for me, Ralph. I'm good.
Good. My only goal is to not shortchange any of you guys. Gene, thank you for guesting. Please, you're welcome. You have an open door on this show.
Okay.
You fit right in. I don't know if you want to do it on a regular basis. You're certainly welcome. Just let us know.
Most Mondays I'm available because I'm athletic security and we got wrestling and basketball, but a lot of Mondays are kind of open.
Beautiful. Then everybody out there, keep on keeping on. I'm enjoying this. If you enjoy it, as do I, do me a favor. Collect some lightly used children's books and put them in a box and take them to the Head Start program wherever you are, and just give some kids a chance to get ready to read and do some math, so when they go to kindergarten they don't have to act out for negative ways. They can put their hand up, and once they start doing well, they'll do well from there on. Don't let them fall behind. Get them some books. Good payback for the good listening you get on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Gene. Adios, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.